Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, guys.
Good
Hi,
Good
afternoon.
Chair.
afternoon.
Greet after Eva,
Afternoon.
Chair.
Yes, ano?
Wala, Chair. Sabi ko, andito kila Eva.
Okay, okay. Buti nag-enjoy kayo dyan. Nag-enjoy ba kayo dyan? That's good. Ayun, at least you get to interact with your class. Okay, sige. Pio and then Eva, if you have any questions later, just tell me who's speaking also. Okay, so we're gonna continue with our discussion from last time. So, ngayon hindi muna tayo magki-quiz is sa Friday na lang yung quiz is natin along with the prize because we still have some topics that we need to discuss yet or still. And for today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the citizenship or paano or sino yung kinoconsider na Filipino citizen. And at the same time, we're gonna look at some cultural traits that Filipinos have and also look at what are the competencies or skills needed to be a citizen, as well as what types of citizenship participations, ano yung categories na ginagamit usually for citizenship participation. So last time we said that the citizenship is something that could be hard, and a lot of the citizens that we see that are active actually are just trying to exercise their rights that are already put or nakalagay na sa batas, diba? So these people, again, these people try to exercise their rights that are already protected in the law, nakalagay sa 1987 Philippine Constitution, specifically sa Article 3, which details the Bill of Rights that we have. But then some of them actually went to a situation wherein they were punished or even killed. Okay? Pero the idea here is that dapat protektado yan sila, 'di ba, ng estado. So, nakalagay yan, what they were doing was legal. Again, yung ginawa nila is legal. This is within the rights of the 19 or their rights as citizens within the 1987 Constitution. So there is usually a misconception kasi with regards to sa mga tao na, for example, nagki-criticize or yung mga tao who might like lead and try to advocate for certain things so that their sectors or their communities could be better represented, and usually they are given a bad reputation. Okay? Pero again, nakalagay yan sa batas, nakalagay sa Bill of Rights nila. So they are basically doing what they need to do as law-abiding citizens. They are using the exercise of the rights as stated in the law. Diba? So usually we have a misunderstanding na yung kung sino yung mga nag-exercise ng rights and they just happen to step on the toes of powerful people. We think of them as something that is not law abiding. Pero iba yung batas sa mga tao in power, guys. Always remember that power is not the same as law. And at the same time, that law is not the same as good. Ayun, hindi yan sila equivalent. Right? It doesn't mean that kung ano yung sinabi ng powerful, that is the one that is legal. And it doesn't mean that if that thing is legal, it is already good. Right? So again, laws are pointers to things or to good things. Laws are pointers to good things. If they do not make sense, if hindi na sila appropriate sa context nila, then these need to be reevaluated. And that's why even our government, even our agencies try to do reviews. Because again, they see laws as something that is changeable and something that could create negative consequences in the future kapag hindi na sila appropriate sa context. Right? So just remember those things. I was just listening to a podcast last time and he said, or yung nagsabi nga, sinabi niya, Jesus is one of the people who hated the people who really insisted on rules or laws that are unbreakable. Because sometimes what they would do is they would use these rules or laws to substitute for what is good and what is right, 'di ba? Na okay, bawal 'di ba yung sa Good Samaritan for example, 'di ba? Bawal magtumulong sa kapwa because that person had to go to a place and he has to be early and so on, and dapat hindi maputikan at saka hindi dapat gumawa ng work on a Sunday. Stuff like that, di ba? So if you become a stickler to those things, sometimes it might not give you the vision as well as the humanity that you might need, di ba? Ayun. So just remember those things. And as you can say or as you can see, This requires a really discerning and very sophisticated idea, diba, kung ano yung tama or mali. So again, that's how hard it becomes to be a citizen. And then, ayun, basta mahirap talaga siya if you want to really pursue these things, or if you really want to discern what is good, what is right, what is the best for all. Pero for now, let's move beyond that topic. Let's go into a more less polarizing topic pala. So this is the idea of a Filipino citizen. Okay, kwento muna si teacher. So yung Filipino citizens natin, yung basihan lang doon is dugo. Okay, sa 1935 Constitution natin, sinabi nila na kapag tatay mo is Filipino, then you will be considered a Filipino citizen. Okay. Para sa mga nanonotice, tatay yung sinasabi, di ba? Ayun. Pero noong 1973, guys, sa paggawa ng 1973 Constitution, sinabi nila na hindi lang tatay, pero pati yung nanay as well. So, either your mom, or if your mom or dad is a Filipino citizen, then you also would become a Filipino citizen. Sa 1987 Constitution, ganun din. Basically. So if you have your mom or your dad, either of the two of them, Filipino citizens, then you are also a Filipino citizen. So this idea wherein your citizenship is based on the parents that you have is known as the jus sanguinis principle, the law of blood. Okay, descent from a parent is the method by which Filipino citizens are considered to be Filipino citizens. I-contrast natin to sa idea na law of land, or yung tinatawag na jus solis or jus soli. Sa jus soli, kung saan ka pinanganak, doon yung bansa or doon mabibase yung citizenship mo. So the US, for example, it has two types to determine citizenship. You could do jus sanguinis, you have American citizens as parents, or you could also do jus soli, 'di ba? So kapag pinanganak ka sa place na iyon, then you could have an easier time becoming an American citizen. Okay? So for example, you are Mexican, but then you went to the US and you gave birth to a child there, right? And the process for that child to become a US citizen is just really easy. Ayun. So, yun yung dalawa, jus soli tsaka jus sanguinis. Pero sa Pilipinas, hindi ganito. So, even if you're a foreigner and it so happens that you gave birth to in the Philippines pala, it doesn't mean that your child would be a Filipino citizen. For for him or her to become a Filipino citizen, if you are a foreigner, you both need to go through a naturalization process. Ito yung tinatawag na proseso kung saan nagkakaroon ka or nag-acquire ka ng Filipino citizenship. So this is open to foreigners, and this is also open to the Filipinos who have already revoked their citizenship or tinanggalan ng Filipino citizenship. Okay, paano sila tinatanggalan? It's probably because their parents or sila din, nag-apply sila ng citizenship sa ibang bansa. And then, yun yung ginamit nilang citizenship lang. And they want to go back to becoming a Filipino citizen. So, pwede yun. Pwede na umulit na kunin yung Filipino citizenship, pero they have to go through a naturalization process. So, sa naturalization process, guys, they need to file and apply for documentation, for papers, and eventually they need to say the oath of allegiance. Ayan. Oath of allegiance, parang like a statement of your loyalty to the Philippines as well as to your commitment as a Filipino citizen. Yun din ginagawa ng mga bansa kapag they want or people want to apply citizenship to them, they would ask the citizens to swear an oath of allegiance to the country, in the sense that your nationality or your citizenship, your loyalty to the other country or to this country that you swore to or you made an oath for becomes a priority compared to your loyalty to other countries or to other groups. Okay, pero sa Pilipinas, hindi lang ganon. There are also situations wherein pwede ka magkaroon ng dual citizenship. So you can be both an American citizen, you can also become a Filipino citizen. This because the idea here is that you are already a Filipino citizen if may parents ka na Filipino, kahit for example, doon ka sa Australia or sa Amerika, if Filipinos yung parents mo, you retain that Filipino citizenship and you could still apply for an American citizenship, you can still apply for an Australian citizenship. Automatic na Filipino ka as long as yung parents mo Filipino na. Ayan, so pwede kang magkaroon ng dual citizenship because the law of citizenship in the Philippines is just jus sanguinis. Whoever your parents are, and if they are Filipinos, then you would be considered a Filipino as well. Ayan. So again, when we're talking about citizens, the natural citizens, those who are naturally Filipino, these are the ones with mothers or fathers as Filipino citizens, while the foreigners or yung mga Filipinos with revoked citizenships have to apply with regards to a process of getting their citizenship or Filipino citizenship. So there are certain requirements. For foreigners, you must be 21 years old and older. You must be or you must have resided or nagkaroon ka na ng residence in the Philippines for 10 years or more. You must be of good moral character as well. And then you must also own real estate in the Philippines. So dapat may lupa ka or may bahay. Siyempre, aside from this, yung kung sino yung ina-accept nila, may nire-reject din sila. So the Philippines does not allow people that are considered criminals, people that are polyamorous. Ibig sabihin, maraming asawa or maraming, yan, either maraming wives or maraming husbands, maliban sa mga Muslims, hindi sila pwedeng mag-acquire ng Filipino citizenship. Tapos yung mga tao na may mga infectious or contagious diseases, they cannot apply for Filipino citizenship then. So you need to get these things fixed first. You need to make sure that your disease is not contagious anymore. You need to cure it. You also need to revoke, 'di ba, yung loyalty mo or yung polyamorous relationships mo or yung stand mo about marriage kasi polyamory means that you are having romantic relationships with many people. Ayun, or ayan, dapat hindi ka daw maging polyamorous kapag you want to apply for a Filipino citizenship. Ayan. That's really interesting, right? Medyo weird yung standards. Pero it shows you how historical, how contextualized, how social, or socially determined even the requirements of citizenship are. So obviously, other states do not have requirements about polyamory and so on, but the Philippines has because generally Philippines is considered to be a more conservative country compared to these other countries. So we have more rigid ideas about who could become Filipino citizens. Okay, are there any questions regarding this idea kung sino lang yung pwedeng maging Filipino citizens at kung ano yung Filipino citizen in legal terms? Do you have questions regarding that?
Wala, Chair.
Okay, wala pa naman. Okay, sige. So we move on to the next topic. If there are no questions regarding who is a Filipino citizen legally, let's look at who are or what are the socio-cultural characteristics of Filipino citizens and Filipino culture in general. So we have adjectives here, the idea of ambivalence, the idea of contextualization. And this is from your book, yung mga characteristics and traits ng Filipinos. But then sinasabi din sa book nyo, and there are already studies, there are already thoughts that Filipino characteristics or traits are could be positive or could contribute positively to society, but at the same time, they have to be contextualized. Maganda siya for interpersonal relationships, kapag family relationships, but if put in other contexts, such as in terms of democracy, in terms of government, in terms of rule following, sa mga mas structured na matters, it could lead to negative consequences. Right? So there's ambivalence in the sense that they are useful and desirable in one sense, depende sa konteksto, and sometimes they could become harmful and damaging in another sense. So you have four main characteristics that were stated. You have the Filipino sense of gratitude, resilience and adaptability. You have care and hospitality, and persistence and creativity. So parang with regards to, yun nga, a double-edged sword. Right? So, or like two sides of the same coin. Diba? There's a positive side and there's a negative or a shadow side with regards to this. As said in your book, there's ambivalence, dalawang poles, negative and positive. So the first one, sense of gratitude. And the way that the book describes this, Filipinos usually express their sense of gratitude in terms of sharing with the community. Kapag merong mga happy occasions or significant occasions in their lives, such as a birth of a child, such as a wedding, such as a baptism, such as good harvest, they do not only do or be grateful personally or within the family, but they need to share it with the community or with their friends. And that's really good because it shows that Filipinos have a deep appreciation of life, and this appreciation of life they share with other people as well. Right? The idea that appreciation should be communal, diba? But at the same time, why do you think or how do you think this could be damaging or could lead to negative consequences? Yung idea na yung gratitude mo dapat sinishare mo palagi sa maraming tao. Any ideas?
Sure, pwede pakiulit yung question.
Yung question is, 'di ba, kapag happy occasion, usually yung ginagawa natin or kapag may significant na event, we express it through festivals, through big celebrations where we invite many people, and then we share the blessings with them. Hindi, 'di ba, yung sa iba, they are just so birthday, very personal, or iisa lang nga na tao. Pero sa Pilipinas, dapat maramihan, 'di ba? Walang small weddings, it's always extended family weddings. Yung thankfulness para sa harvest, this is done through fiestas, through festivals, instead of just being thankful as a family or as a smaller unit. Okay, how could this be a bit or how could this be made negative? Oh, maganda siya, 'di ba? Maganda siya kasi it means that communal yung happiness natin at gratitude. Pero paano siya in certain cases na magkakaroon siya ng negative consequences? Okay, can you try to answer that, Eva? If you have any ideas.
Di ko alam, sure, parang ano lang, yung para yung sa mga fiesta, parang, ano pa, parang magastos masyado instead na parang small occasion na nagbibigay ng things. Ay, kailangan pa maging bongacious at
Oo.
madaming preparations, but sure, parang masyadong, parang need talaga ng madaming effort, parang ganun, sure.
Okay. Ayun, I agree with that also. So again, it costs financially, 'di ba? And sometimes we see certain people na kailangan na marami yung pera ng inuutang para magkaroon ng baptism kung saan para ma-invite nila yung maraming tao tapos hindi na nila iniisip yung tomorrow. Right? Pero hindi lang 'yon. That's one. That's a really that's a big problem also for the family kasi nga inuuna yung parang appearance, 'di ba? Or inuuna yung dapat we have to mark this event and then hindi na iniisip yung future masyado. Pero yung isa pa, na-witness natin to sa COVID-19, di ba? There has been an insistence na, okay, we have to continue with our occasions, di ba? Yung ibang tao, because they are really used to having birthdays that are inviting many people, that baptisms and weddings that invite many people, kasi yun yung nakagisnan, they still insisted on it even during the pandemic. So, given this type of situation, obviously it's not appropriate. Right? So, there's a cultural trait kung saan ganito yung ating expression ng gratitude. Pero at the same time, parang hindi naman ata tama na pati sa COVID-19 wherein kinakailangan na isolation, ng social distancing, yun pa rin yung gagamitin natin or gagawin natin. So, the idea here is that sense of gratitude is good, but the way that Filipino express their sense of gratitude could sometimes be damaging, di ba? In certain situations, if they insist on it. So, again, yung sinabi ni Eva, sometimes if the financial costs really give a big problem to the family or to the people, and at the same time, during special cases like this, wherein social distancing is necessary, ayun, umapaw yung idea na, okay, syempre, those are things that are coming from a good intention, di ba? Kasi nga, okay, kailangan nating mag-invite kasi nga, birthday and so on, gusto nating i-share yung blessings, ganon. We want to communicate with other people. Good intentions yon. But at the same time, good intentions could lead to negative consequences, lalo na may pandemic, di ba? So, those things could occur. Okay, that's one. If there are any thoughts, you can also just unmute your mic, guys. Ayun. We also have resilience and adaptability. So this one is really admirable because the context of the Philippines is that it is a country that has a lot of or faces a lot of challenges. So we are a country beset by typhoons. We are a country beset by financial and economic challenges. We have a really large poverty rate. At the same time, we maraming like areas in the Philippines that do not have access to public services as much as we wanted to, and so on. So the people living in the Philippines always get challenged in all sides or on all sides. But despite that, they remain optimistic, and then nakikita yung pagiging optimistic nila and pagiging strong because every time that there is a challenge, they always try to come back and to stand up and to rebuild. Right? Nag-rebuild palagi. Kapag, for example, may typhoon, di ba? Uh, and all of their houses, even their family members, get destroyed. Ayun, yung kanilang businesses get destroyed. There's the idea that, okay, this is normal. This is something that we have to face given that we are in the Philippines, given that this is the way that natural calamities go in the area. And we have to rebuild. That's the only choice that we have. Right? And ayun, so there's always that idea, the idea of resilience. Okay. Can somebody offer a negative side to this? So this is obviously positive. It creates for a nation that has strong and optimistic people, which is always good for the nation itself. Are there any negative sides to this though? The idea that hindi siya ano no, like what's negative about being resilient? What's negative about being strong? Parang wala naman. Okay, pero some people have noticed that if you emphasize the resilience and the strength of the Filipino people, sometimes it becomes an excuse. Sometimes it becomes like a permission, right, to not do things well anymore, so that these things could be prevented, so that further suffering can be lessened. Diba? So, for example, sa case ng disasters, we always praise Filipinos for being like resilient during disasters, but at the
Oo,
same
sure,
time,
yung parang
oo,
madaming nag-romanticize sa pagiging resilient ng mga Filipino, which is, ano, pangit tignan, sure, kasi parang naabuso din ba? Need din mag-take actions, gano'n.
okay, ayun, I really like the word that Eva used, the idea of
Sure,
romanticization, di ba?
ako yun. Si Fiola
Ay,
yun kasi. Sorry, Trin, na nag-ano ng name.
okay, so
Kalimutan ko.
it's fine. Ayun. So si Fiola pala, nag-isang tao na I cannot distinguish your voices, guys. Ayun, pero si Fiola said, I really like the term that she used, the romanticization of resilience, right? Na uh, yun nga, uh, if it gets romanticized, in the future, 'di ba, kung eto lang yung reliance natin na okay, Filipinos are going to be resilient, and it seems that there is no accountability, or sometimes there could be a lack of accountability kasi nga okay, there's just strong, 'di ba? Strong. So, pero with regards to that situation, some of the things that they have gone through could have been prevented. And yun yung criticism ng iba, 'di ba? With regards to media, na sana hindi na nagkaroon ng disaster kapag mas accountable yung LGU or kung ano mang yung government organization or whatever organization, sana hindi na nagkaroon ng situation where people have to be strong. Right? Because with regards to that, nagkaroon na ng trauma na sana hindi na na-traumatize, na prevent before pa nangyari yung event na iyon, 'di ba? Ayun. So obviously, it doesn't mean that they have to stop the typhoon, pero at the same time, like some things could be prevented, 'di ba? Kaya nga may disaster prevention mitigation tayo, because the idea that there are some human interventions that people could do so that really big disasters, natural disasters could also be prevented as well. Right? So resilience would not be necessary, or would not be as necessary, if we have robust structures. And the thing is, the Philippines does not have a robust structure compared to the others. Right? Ayan. Pero kinakailangan to, hindi talaga to mape-prevent. And it's always good that the Filipinos have a sense of gratitude, a sense of resilience, and adaptability as well. Ayan. Very good, guys. I really like hearing your thoughts, and you have really good thoughts. Ayan. And for the others, please feel free to unmute your mic. I'm pretty sure that there are some other wonderful thoughts that will just come out if you just unmute your mic as well. Ayun, sige. So we have care and hospitality as well. Ayun, the Filipinos are always willing to lend a hand, And they always have this ability to make people comfortable in social situations as well as in social relations. And that's why, because we're so friendly, diba, people always notice this about the Philippines. Foreigners always say na we're very hospitable and so on. Ayan. May makikita ba kayong bad na ano dito, na situation? Or bad na or negative consequence ng care and hospitality? I can't find any. Pero siguro we can imagine situations where this could become like abusive as well. I don't know. Uh, I'm just proposing. Or I haven't thought of any situations yet. I think if you have any thoughts about this, you can always unmute your mic as well. Ayan. And you also have persistence and creativity. Okay, because the Philippines or the Filipinos have a lack of economic opportunities as well as public services, kinakailangan nila yung tinatawag sa English is hustle, 'di ba? Hustle or grind. So because there is no choice, it's either starvation, suffering, or to hustle or grind, then they are forced to be creative and to find opportunities where they can find opportunities. So they need to make or to look at specific ideas and to improvise kung ano yung pwede nilang magamit sa environment nila to use to make ends meet. Yan. So, um, hindi to common lang sa Pilipinas. So, poor countries such as India, for example, Bangladesh, all of these other poor countries have really creative and innovative people that use the surroundings that they have, that use the resources that is available to them because nga wala silang choice kundi gumawa ng ganon, 'di ba? So they always have to create alternatives. First, because they cannot afford to buy things in the market most of the time, 'di ba? For example, yung ating mga like with regards to COVID-19, yung hygiene natin and so on. So not everyone can afford to buy masks in the store or to replace the mask in the store. Not everyone could buy or could afford to buy like yung mga vaccines and medicines and so on. So some of the improvisations of yung mga Filipinos natin is just to look at traditional medicine, for example, coconut oil. You also have yung mask nila, 'di ba? They find ways or even the yung ano nga face shield. So makikita mo for example, yung mga tao na instead of buying face shields from the market, they would create their own face shields from galon and so on. Sew their own mask from fabric and so on. So obviously, these are not standardized equipment. And science people would say now, okay, hindi yan talaga as effective, 'di ba? Pero at the same time, we cannot blame these people because they're trying to fulfill the requirement using the materials that are available to them. Diba? So we're following the rules, but because we cannot afford to follow the rules, we have to improvise what is available to us because to follow the rules will be too costly for us. Buying masks at the drugstore, so on, diba? Or buying face shields, and so on. And so, makikita natin na they are forced to be creative. And again, to persist as well. Yung mga businesses din, for example, sa mga really poor areas, they had to reinvent yung idea ng food nila na cheap. So, pagpag, for example. Alam niyo ba yung pagpag? Do you know pagpag? It's a recycled food. So, yung mga ano kasi natin, mga fast food natin like Jollibee, like McDo, 'di ba, kung minsan may mga tao na hindi nila kinakain ng full yung mga manok, dini-discard lang nila. So may mga meat pa diyan na konti na hindi na nakukuha sa bones. What happens is that instead of throwing that, some Jollibee or some McDo employees would sell it for a very low price to the poorer population. Sometimes yung ginagawa din is hindi lang yun, pero kasi may stock din yung ibang restaurants. So 'di ba yung stock is pinapakuluan yung bones or yung manok, and then may bones pa dyan, may meat na yan, pero hindi yan pwede ma-serve sa customers. So they would sell this, and the people who buy this would refry it and make it into food to sell again. And so these are specific things that they use so that they could adapt. Yan. So, ayun. Are there any questions with regards to this? Ayan. Syempre, yung persistence and creativity, hindi na yan masyadong kinakailangan yung mga ideas na, like, a galon na face mask na hindi standardized or yung pagpag, hindi mag-exist yan kapag hindi mahirap masyado yung Filipino. Or because we are, or because Filipinos are really poor, or there's a really big subject section of Filipinos are really poor, they have to improvise with regards to these things. What is good though, if kapag sa future, we become more socio-economically well off, we still retain these characteristics and traits. So even if yung poverty rate natin bumabaw na and then we become richer, and everyone aangat, 'di ba, socio-economically, we still retain the sense of gratitude, we still retain resilience and adaptability. Even if gumanda na yung public services natin, we're still hospitable and we are still persistent and creative, right? Those things are could be retained as well. Ayan. Are there any questions regarding these characteristics and traits?
Wala, Char.
Okay, wala pa naman. Ayun. Okay, so we move on to the characters or the types of citizenship. Sinabi ko last time, 'di ba, na iba-iba yung ating paniniwala or yung requirement natin sa sarili kung ano tayong citizen maging. Pero guys, that thing or citizenship as a concept is not fixed, 'di ba? Yung ating ideas of citizenship or what citizen should we be. So, meron tayong tatlong categories sa libro natin. You have participatory, personally responsible, and justice-oriented. And regarding sa life ng tao, you could be most of these things, depending on which stage of life you are being or you will be at. So again, yung tao nag-change given circumstances, given time. So some people might be one type of citizen in some point of their lives, and it could change throughout another point of their lives because human identity is not fixed, and the idea of being a citizen, your participation in society is not fixed as well. So again, sometimes you might be more self-oriented, sometimes you might be more society-oriented, sometimes you might even commit to a balance of the self and society. Depende sa sitwasyon natin. Yan. So first one, participatory citizenship. Makikita natin, 'di ba, may star sa ilalim. Yung green na star, ibig sabihin yan is you focus both on yourself and society. For orange stars, it means that you focus less on the situation and focus more on the green one. So the first one, self and society, these are citizens who are invested in both their own needs as well as the needs of society as well. Hindi nila ini-ignore yung economic and social interest nila. So they still want to make money, they still want to live a successful life, but they also want to contribute to the success, to the like economic needs of the community and the collectivities wherein they belong to. So they have an orientation towards making the self successful, but at the same time they have a stake at making their communities as well as their nation successful as well, and to maintain the institutions that make the community successful. So these are the people who believe in democratic processes, yung idea na kinakailangan ng involvement ng maraming tao to make a community successful, and at the same time nakikita nila yung sarili nila, yung dreams nila, and then yung kanilang mga needs also are connected to the needs of the community as well. So they have a sense of accountability for what happens to the nation, and they also have an awareness and the idea of their role within that community itself. They know their positions, they know how they could contribute, and they know what to do given what other people are also doing. Okay? And at the same time, they are also successful in their own endeavors. So ayun, participatory citizenship nila. They can stand as individuals, but they think of themselves as based on a community as well. Yung personally responsible citizenship, they are more individual focused. While the participatory citizens think of themselves as participating or creating organizations, joining organizations, yung personally responsible citizen thinks of themselves as law-abiding citizens specifically, and their goal is to be successful muna. So economically oriented, socially oriented, family oriented lang muna, mas immediate, mas maliit yung kanilang tinatatap, pero they still follow the rules and regulations in society and in the government. But they do not really participate as much, or they do not really look into groups into communities that they could join with. So, inuuna muna yung economic and social needs nila at ng family nila. But syempre, the duties that are required of Filipino citizens, such as paying taxes, such as voting, they also exercise. Pero yon yung pinaka-basic na mga bagay. And at the same time, they contribute economically to the Philippines as well, or to the nation as well. Pero syempre, yun lang yung involvement nila. Personally responsible. Ibig sabihin, I'm responsible for myself lang. Participatory, I'm responsible for myself and the outcomes that the community will have. And then you also have, ayan, so I don't know if this makes sense, but this is the model that could maybe help. So you have the circle, that is society, and then you have the stars, these are the individuals, and then you could see the lines that connect individuals to each other. So they're responsible, they engage with each other, and they are all knitted together, diba? And all of these form the society that they want to live in. So personally responsible, you have stars, they can stand on their own, but at the same time, they do not see connection with other people as much, right? Because they prioritize their immediate family themselves compared to other people. Ayan. But they are still part and they are still important members of the nation. Yan. And then you have the last one, you have justice-oriented citizenship. So these are citizens who place society's or other people's needs above their own. Less on the self, ibig sabihin, they are not focused as much on their social and economic needs. Instead, they prioritize the social and economic needs of other people. Uh, Probably because this is already part of their identity. They have a strong drive to serve those who are underprivileged that do not have as good of socio-economic outcomes such as them. Right? Or even if kahit poor sila, gusto din nilang or mas gusto nilang tulungan yung poor pa. Right? Hindi na nila iniisip kung ano yung or paano sila maging rich or maging well off. Instead, they already focus on making sure that the people that really need resources get access to these resources no matter how minimal these may be. Ayan, so pwede yung gusto nilang change, 'di ba? Or gusto nilang pagbigay ng serbisyo is incremental, pa konti-konti lang, or gusto talaga nilang maging revolutionary. Ayan, they want to have an inflexible image. So these are the people that are very utopian. They have a certain idea of how society should be run. The idea that equity should be the guiding force for all. Ayan, yung mga tao na nagsasabi na, okay, you have to to get from the rich and then distribute it to the poor, something like that. So Robin Hood ideas. These are actually justice-oriented people, diba? They want to make sure that society becomes equitable. Yeah. And yung syempre, hindi lang nakakonfine sa tatlong model na ito. Again, we have different models of citizenship. You can create your own. Or again, pwedeng mag-switch throughout different aspects or different stages in your life. Pwede kang maging participatory once, and then you can become personally responsible, then you can become justice-oriented, or pwede ding isa ka lang throughout your life. Pero I don't think this happens for most people. Yan, they would switch throughout their lifetimes. Siyempre, meron din tayong tao na puro orange yung self and society. They do not care about themselves and they do not really fulfill their social and economic needs or wants, and they do not care about fulfilling the social and economic needs of others. So this could be called apathetic citizens. Right? Na hindi tinitingnan yung sarili or pinupunan yung needs sa sarili at hindi din pinupunan yung needs sa iba. And what we are hopeful for is yung apathetic citizens might switch right to other models of citizenship as well. Because again, these are not fixed categories, right? Evolutionary categories to, and they could also be changing throughout the different aspects of our life as well. Ayan. Related to this also is the idea of how citizens participate in civic issues. Okay, so kapag mas small yung gusto mo i-serve guys, so immediate community natin, tinatawag dyan is civic participation. This happens when citizens tries to contribute or get involved by activities in the immediate community. So ano yung sa immediate community? Yung church natin, yung school, yung mga small na groups dyan sa community natin. If you contribute, if you participate in the activities, then you're already engaging in civic participation. A community pantry is one. Kasi these are small scale community involvement efforts. But then what happened was it became a trend, right? It got replicated and it became more systematized. It became more organized. It became a movement. Once something like this becomes a movement, it could turn into the idea of civic engagement. Once the government becomes involved, and once you form organizations, it's from small groups na informal lang, kapag mas naging formal, nagkakaroon ka na ng organizations, you join o naging volunteers ka na sa specific projects, nagkakaroon na ng movements, maramihan na kaagad, hindi lang limited sa community mo, pero it's like, it could be a national, regional, or international idea. And then you form more structured organizations, right, with funding already, that is already more permanent compared kapag sa community or sa civic participation na, then you become involved into a deeper form of engagement, right? Which is civic engagement. This requires a deeper level of involvement in which citizens are able to form or join citizen groups or organizations that actively work to change or improve government processes. NGOs are one such thing. They try to complement, sometimes supplement, kapag, for example, nakukulangan yung gobyerno, sabihin natin, kulang yung vaccines or hindi sapat yung health efforts sa community centers, doctors could create organizations and then help the help the government, the local government to give the services, and this organization stays, right, and becomes something that is more permanent, then you are already participating in civic engagement. Pero for example, kapag fundraising lang, medyo temporary lang, wala pang specific na organization na ginagawa, then it could become civic participation. You also have activism. So activism, eto talaga yung gusto mong i-change, right? You are critical of processes of the government. And to do that, you become vocal, you go to the streets and try to criticize that idea. And try to, or hindi lang ganon, kasi hindi lang yun yung idea. You also try to focus on things that are being ignored as well, or to forward rights that are not being like diba, ini-ignore. And so activism, practice of vigorous action or involvement as a means of achieving political goals by means of protest and demonstration. So these are certain levels. And again, some people would prefer to participate lang in civic issues or the immediate community. Some people would want a more structured way to join organizations, to support foundations, to support charities, or to even create charities, organizations, and so on. Civic engagement yan. Some people, usually the young, right, pero hindi limited to the young, would become activists, right, to protest and to become more vocal about specific issues. Some people do all of these things at the same time. Some people do two, some people do one, some people do three. Depende sa tao. Yan. And you also have the ingredients para magawa yung participation na ito. Kinakailangan ng power, kinakailangan ng imagination, and civic and collective character as well. To have or to know that you could become effective and that you could actually influence change, you need to believe in yourself, right? And yung power na iyon, hindi siya dictatorial power. Yung idea na kung ano yung iniisip mo dapat tama. In a democratic country, the power should also be democratic. The power of the groups, the power, kasi yung democracy, it's like a situation wherein throughout the process of knowing, throughout the process of conversation and discourse, people know what is best for the community itself. So, with regards to this process, kinakailangan ng compromise, kinakailangan ng conflict, kinakailangan ng defeat, right? Because if some ideas are good or compared to the others, right? So the power should reside within the group, within the collective decisions of the group, instead of one individual. Pero at the same time, you should be able to stand on the group as an individual in the group. You have to be able to propose, to analyze, to evaluate. These are the qualities that you could use so that you could contribute to the group, so that the group as a whole could have better proposals, could have better analysis, could have better evaluations as well. Kailangan na may naniniwala ka sa sarili mo para yung grupo din maniniwala sa sarili nila at mas maganda yung plano, di ba? And at the same time, to create those ideas, you need to have imagination. So imagination is just recombination. Makakakita ng ideas that might not be immediate, hindi nakikita ngayon, pero could become future-oriented. Hindi nakalimit sa practical or sa real. Pero tinitingnan yung mga iba't ibang ideas, kung ano ginagawa nila sa iba, and how could it be applied here? Or even novel ideas, di ba? Seeing possibilities instead of seeing practicalities. Because kailangan na ano, 'di ba? Yung sinasabi nila, you have to shoot for the stars, you might land in the moon. Right? Instead of just focusing on the earth, something like that. Right? So you also have civic and collective character. For that to happen, for you to be able to contribute democratically to the group, for you to be able to imagine, not just for yourself, but for the group, you need to be able to have loyalty and the idea that you are part of the group as well, and that your own individual capabilities and needs are also tied to the capabilities of the group as well as the needs of the group as well. Okay, so on Friday, we will have the quizzes game. First, I think, please also study page 275 of your book, the competencies and skills for active citizenship, which we haven't discussed yet. Okay, we end here. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and hope you have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, sir.
Bye,
Bye,
Marga.
sir.